Hey, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Voices from Fandom. Now, this is one of our newer shows with NBL. Actually, this is our seventh episode, so it can't be that new. I don't know how we got to 7 episodes already. My name is Mark, and I'm one of the show hosts for this segment, along with my other two co-hosts, the wonderful Mark Street here, and let me get these guys up on the screen right now, and Joe Thompson. We will be your co-host for the show. Now, this is one of 3 or 4 shows that we do under NBL Entertainment, and basically, we started out 7 years. We've been doing this for 7 years. Not Voices from Fandom, but our other show, actually our flagship show, being Saturday morning cartoons. We do every Saturday mornings. Well, we actually take one Saturday per month off, so it's actually 3 times a month. And then what we do is basically talk about classic television in the animation form, classic cartoons that you grew up with, things that you remember growing up with, things we remind you growing up. And that's one of our shows. Then the other show that we do every other Friday, we do Classic Television Smackdown. And of course, it speaks for itself. It's just basically classic TV shows that you guys are familiar with. And guys, I hear some background noise, so I'm going to mute everybody right now. Sorry about that, guys. I'm hearing something in the background going on. Anyway, so classic television, we do live, all in the family, things of that nature. And we've been very, very successful for the last 7 years. So this is Voices from Fandom, and I got a few rules that I need to go ahead and run down to you folks while you're watching this great episode we're having here. Number one, we have a chat room, okay? And you can join the chat room via on the Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. And what you do, if you type in the chat, you can go ahead and ask questions of our guests within reason. Now, I'm going to review all of the chats that come in, and then I'll put them up on the screen for everyone to see, even our guests if they want to respond to it. And we're going to go that way. Okay, so we had a month ago a part 1 of this series that we've done, and it's actually based on, of course, Alien Earth. We did one episode based just on that show, and we were supposed to have 2 of our crew members from that show here, and we only ended up with 1. The funny thing about it is, having a part 2 of this show, we're still supposed to have 2 crew members for this show, and we have 1. So, Calvin, if you're watching this right now, you're supposed to be on screen with us. But if not, we had a great show. The first Alien Earth Part 2 you can find on YouTube on our pages, and kind of catch up on what we talked about the last time. All right, I'm unmuting everybody now. So, oops. Yeah, Joe, that's coming from you. Yeah, can you hear it?
Yeah, I can't hear anything.
None of you guys either? Oh, well, that's good. No. That's good, as long as it's not going through the show. I hear it coming through my speakers, but that's okay. All right, so we finally saw the last episode of Alien Earth. We were actually waiting for this to be over before we discuss literally the entire season, because when we did have the show a month or so ago, I don't know, what episodes were we up to, guys? Maybe 6? And we just seen episode 6, I think. So when we had our first show on that,
3 or 4.
Yeah, something like that. Whenever it was. So anyway, so now that the season is over, okay, we're going to go ahead and have this discussion along with, at least right now, currently one of our crew members. By the way, Terrence Rosemore should be watching tonight. Terrence Rosemore, we did a show on him a few weeks back, and he played Otis in the latest Superman movie. And we did a whole show with him as a guest and everything. And it was an incredible show. It was just a fantastic show, just like this. Okay, who is this here? Okay, we got our first scammer in the chat room. Welcome, whoever you are. Good to see you. All right, so if everybody pretty much knows the synopsis of Alien Earth, or rather Alien, starting with the first Alien, which I happen to have seen in the theater back in 1979. It first came out, and totally loved it. enjoyed it, scared the living daylights out of me. And then, of course, the next series of Aliens movies came out, and we were, some were good, some were not so good. In my opinion, it's all a matter of taste. As well as this series, guys. This series basically is rating high with a lot of people, but I always wonder about the people who didn't like it or who has issues with it. But much like everything in fandom, someone has an issue about. By the way, and I'm skipping around like crazy because I'm still getting feedback. I don't know where that's coming from. Will my co-host please go ahead and introduce themselves? I got it written here in my notes, and I totally skipped over it because I'm concentrating on too many things at the same time. You know
I'm
how
Mark.
when I have to run a show, I'm running the board at the same time while also trying to be the talent, one of the talents on here as well, which just cracks me up. So Mark Street here at the bottom of the screen. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, buddy?
No worries. Hey, folks, I'm Mark Street. You may have seen me as on the Dice Tower, which is my primary job, talking about and showing off modern board games. So I'm pretty lucky where I get to play games that don't exist yet and then show those off, hoping to get crowd funded. So that's kind of it's amazing that I get to do it, actually. It's the best job I've ever had. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me. And then in my past, I was a photographer, which all plays into my video and stuff now. But I worked for Star Trek, Star Wars fan magazines, and I've been around the block, so to say.
Yeah, well, good. Well, good. And Mark's been with us on all of our shows. He's basically done a show of. I don't think you've ever done classic television SmackDown, have you, Mark?
Yeah, not classic television, no.
All right. Well, that's your next assignment, obviously.
Yeah.
So, hey, Joe, up there, up there in the upper right. How you doing, buddy? Why don't you go ahead and tell the crowd who you are and what you're about?
Doing great, Mark. I'm Joe Thompson. I am a part-time vigilante and comic book artist. I do independent comic art. Done a few series over the years. Lately, I've kind of gotten away from the sequential stuff and been doing a lot of independent art for some friends' businesses. I've got a friend that owns a bar that's very successful that I do a lot of graphic art T-shirts that are horror and heavy metal themed. I've got another friend that owns a rock venue and a rock school that I do a lot of artwork for as well. Huge geek, been a geek as long as I can possibly remember, everything from cartoons to movies, TV shows, video games, comics, all of it. So I'm a bit of a pop culture junkie and absolutely love the sci-fi stuff a lot. So Alien Earth definitely played into that. And just glad to be here. Been doing stuff with NBL Entertainment for 5 of the 7 years at least. So
really, that's awesome. Wow, yeah. Man, we're so damn old.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and bring our guest up in a second. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and repeat, the chat room rules. If you guys have questions that you want to ask about Alien Earth, you can put it up in the chat box there, and we'll go ahead and produce it to our guest. Like I had mentioned before. This show on Friday preempts our classic television SmackDown show that we normally do, but we're not going to change our social rules that we normally have during our Friday night shows. And I don't have it in front of me, but as soon as I get out of here, that's right. Our libations that Jill just brought up. This is a BYOB show, ladies and gentlemen. We have fun here, okay, and we have a good time. And you'd be surprised how interesting we get the further on the show goes, okay? And that's us. Jackie, one of our regular guests for classic and Saturday morning cartoons. How you doing, sweetheart? Good to see you. Thank you so much. If you have questions about the show, much like, again, anybody can ask questions. I'm not going to be talking as much as I'm talking now because I'm going to be running the board. So I will probably be popping off the screen and allow Mark and Joe to go ahead and beat up our guest a little bit while I'm not here. But I just want to just say a few more things and basically, I love this show. I really enjoy it. As you guys know, I'm a stickler about writing. Some people may debate on the writing for this show, and in my opinion, it's hit or miss. Every episode is not going to be the same. I'm used to criticizing the writing on shows like that, and how that writing went. I'm adjusting my microphone here. So anyway, I really like the show. It's got a lot of meat to it, also a lot of heart, and it answers a lot of questions that no one has ever considered when watching any of the motion pictures. It kind of ties up a lot. And in fact, if I can find that timeline that I put up the last time, guys, if you remember, and that's going to be a problem, but I'll find it. Here's one big announcement, guys. While our guest is on, I'm going to be go ahead and running photos across the screen. I couldn't get all the photos that I wanted to, actually, only because of space requirements, but I have 100 photos to show. So nice. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So without any further ado, I have known this guy, I think we pretty much estimated about 30 years. Lee Stringer has been a friend of mine. I think I met him at a convention. In fact, I'm pretty sure I met him at a convention somewhere outside of Baltimore. And it's been a long time since I've known this guy. He's worked on so many shows, Battlestar Galactica. I mean, he'll just run down literally his bio on what he has worked on in the past. And I honestly did not know that he was a crew member on Alien Earth until I either saw it on his Facebook page or he mentioned it. I think we were raving about the first episode, and I think he messaged me back or something saying, "Glad you like it." And I'm sitting here going, "Oh, no, you not. You did not work on that." So Lee is coming to us from Singapore. So it's about 8:00 in the morning right now as we speak. So without any further ado, where the hell is my applause meter here? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to you with fake applause, Lee Stringer. Woo! Hey! How you doing, buddy?
Okay. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The classic line. Okay.
How you doing, Lee?
I'm very good. I'm glad to finally be here. As I say, I was meant to be here a month ago. I was traveling from London, and I was trying to hook up with you guys at the airport, and I got delayed, and just couldn't make it. So I was sort of half following along on my phone while I was traveling to the airport. And then I think I got to the airport, and you were like, "Okay, we're finished."
Yeah. Well, we were on for a long time.
We were.
I think we were either 2 hours or close to 2 hours. We were on the last time we were here. Not that we were waiting for you to land somewhere, Lee.
No. I was actually traveling because we'd been over in the UK for a few weeks. But Abby and me were on different flights, my wife. So I dropped her off at Gatwick, and then I had to take the train back into London and then over to Heathrow. And so that just took me a little bit longer than I expected. So
I
did
that once. Yeah, I did that once, Lee. I think I flew into the Heathrow, and my because I didn't look at the bookings. I was young. I didn't look at my bookings when I first booked my going over to England. And I'm like, where the hell's Heathrow, and how do I get there? So I flew into Heathrow, or rather, I flew into Gatwick, going to Heathrow. And it was a mess. So I understand exactly what we're talking about. Oh, good grief. Okay, we already got one question, but before we do this, we're gonna go ahead and proof Lee here on his experiences there. I will be backing out and try to throw up as many pictures as I possibly can. Lee, a lot of them you have a minute. If there's any moment that you say, Mark, go back to that picture or yada, 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 just tell me to do so.
Oh, well, yeah. The problem I usually end up with is that every picture has a story behind it, and I can probably talk for an hour on every picture. So we'll be here for a week. If you'll
be here for a week.
I'll be here for a week. You guys will be off, and
I'll leave the lights on. I'll leave the power going. You just keep on talking.
It's your evening as well. You're a Friday night. We're off. But for me, it's Saturday morning. So
it's Friday night. You're Saturday morning right now. We got a show tomorrow morning too, so you'll be in bed when that happens.
Yes.
Okay, so. I'm going to go ahead and drop off. I'm just going to be running through pictures at some point. These guys going to have questions for you. I'm going to have questions when I think them up, and I'll pop in or whatever. But Why don't you guys go ahead and take it away, and I'll just listen from here.
Cool. So Lee, it's very nice to meet you. Thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So
and I'm glad to see. Oh, that's me.
Look at that. That's awesome.
So yeah, that that was obviously one of the corridors of the Maginot, and
Right.
I tell this to everybody. They're like, why do you take so? You got loads of pictures of you on the sets. It's really cool. And I go, yeah, well, we never normally do that. You don't do that on sets. You don't
Right.
take photos of yourself.
Right.
I mean, a lot of sets you're not even allowed to. They take the phones off you and they keep them at the door and stuff like that. In the job that I'm in, I'm in visual effects. I think we probably should to start there. So I work in visual effects, and I was the on-set visual effects supervisor, or one of two. We actually have a whole slew of cameras, because one of our big things that we're doing is taking reference photos. We take photos and measurements and recordings of everything that's going on set, so that when we do the post-production afterwards, if we're adding something in or changing something, we have reference from multiple angles. Because one of the biggest problems in post-production is that usually the crew that's working on the post-production shots, all they have is what the camera captured. So if you imagine, you're working on a shot. That was the last shot I took of the galley of the Maginot.
Nice.
It was all the lights were off, and there was just some lights coming in from from behind me. And I walked by the door, and I was like, "Oh, I got to get a picture of that."
Yeah, cool shot for sure.
Great shot.
End of, yeah. So when you're working on adding, something to a shot in the back, if you're adding a creature crawling across this wall in the ceiling back here, well, often the person working on it is working on it 6 months after we shot it.
Right.
They're working in an office in Atlanta or Vancouver or Prague or Australia, Sydney, wherever, somewhere around the world. They've never been there. They have no clue. So one of the things that we do is we take an awful lot of reference, so that they then can kind of have an idea of, okay, what's around, what else was there, what was going on left and right and stuff like that. So we take a lot of photos, I'm taking reference photos all the time. And of course, when I got to the Maginot sets, I took a lot of photos, because I was just like, I work in visual effects, but I got into this because of things like this. I mean, I am a fan. I was a fan. That's not me. That's Paddy. He was the on-set photographer. So all the really cool photos that you've been seeing on the, all the promotional photographs, all the really, really high resolution, really cool photos, they were taken by him.
Okay.
He's got an interesting backstory as well.
Nice.
But he's done like war correspondence, journalism and things like that. Yeah. So yeah,
that set was incredible. The Maginot is like very, very classic Aliens, especially Aliens like 1 and 2, especially like. Well,
the simple idea is that if you've got a shipyard that's building, if you've ever been on a military ship or whatever, I mean, if you go to the galley on a military ship and you go to a galley on another military ship, they're the same. They don't redesign them. And that was the thought process behind this, was that a bunch of these would be literally like modules, and they would just build them and replicate them. So that was the idea. And it also, I think, gave the production. So that's a 360. I've got a 3. But actually, it's right here. I got this.
That's awesome.
That takes photos, 2 lenses on one on each side. So I'll put that on the middle of the table, because that room is a 360 room, and that's what that one was.
You had to feel really immersed in the sets, it looks like.
At times, it was a bit different. So I have some friends who actually worked on the original and also went on the sets of the original. And the original Nostromo sets apparently were all on one huge soundstage.
Right.
You could literally walk from the bridge to the galley to the engineering room, connected through, kind of similar to a lot of the Star Trek sets.
Yep.
I've worked on Star Trek as well, and a lot of the Star Trek sets, they had this sort of curved corridor, and then all the rooms were off of it.
Yeah,
and
right.
Usually, apart from the bridge, almost all the other rooms you could walk from A to B. This one, there was one huge set that had a lot of the rooms on it, so that they were connected, but there was far too many to fit on one. So actually, we were spread over more than a dozen sets. all over the place. But back to the photo of me taking a picture of me on the set. So I say, normally you don't take selfies on sets. That's sort of a no-no. The problem is, you know, I'm in these amazing. That was us on the plane coming back from Krabi, so everything's okay there. We're not worried. But we're on these amazing sets, and there was times where I'm going, I gotta take a picture. This is really cool. You know, wouldn't you?
Yep.
Right.
Oh yeah,
no, absolutely.
I know that. I know that feeling. I was on set for the Orville, and I just had to take pictures.
Right. So. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. I would have done. You know. I mean, as I say, I've got photos. You know, being on set on other sets. You know.
Yeah.
But not usually of me. And as I say, you don't usually do that, and you don't usually take them with you with the actors as well. Everybody's like, "Oh, you should get an autograph of so and so." I go, "No, you don't do that.
No, that's not a thing.
You know, that's not a thing." But like, so this one, there's me with Jade, who was the second Xeno, what we call the short Xeno, the short Xeno. Yeah. So a lot of people were confused that it didn't quite come across in the story that Xeno was actually meant to be. That's why it's got this weird splotchy paint job on it.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
And because the idea was that it was sort of stunted, like it's a runt, because of its weird gestation, because it was taken from one and then put into another. And the idea was that it wasn't quite a normal Xeno, as it were.
I actually preferred the paint job on it, and the only reason why
it was a really impressive paint job. I've posted a couple of photos of the head that show the paint job, because I did want everyone. That's Cameron. He played the main Xeno, and that also
you can actually see the detail. Like the one problem with the jet black one is that, like, it is menacing, it's iconic, we all know it looks great, but it's because it's black, you can't really see the details. So it's
actually not black as well. The fourth Xeno is actually very brown. It's very, very brown.
Really?
It has it has different shades. And
there's a lot of this. But also that's taken in sort of neutral light. This was actually taken when it was going in to be scanned. To make a 3D model of it. So but yeah, quickly back to the shot of me with Jade. That was literally taken on her last day on set. There was a couple of people where I kind of went, "Hey, let me get a picture of, you know, just at the end." And like literally it was like I waited until she'd walked off of set. And I mean, I worked with, you know, with those sort of, you know, people quite you know, many days and whatever.
Right.
So but yeah, so you know, if somebody else is doing a quick take when it's the last day, then you kind of jump in and you go, okay, let me do one, because as I say, I don't usually do it. I actually much prefer if somebody takes a photo of me without me realizing, or sort of a more of a behind the scenes photo. I prefer those because
because you're working. It's really
I'm also one of those people. I like to take the photos and not be in them.
I know that feeling as well. Yep.
Yeah. So that one was actually me on purpose. I literally did that one on purpose. So that's Adrian Edmondson, who, you know, ironically, so most of the people on set had no clue who Aid was, except for all us old white guys, you know, who'd grown up with him in the 80s and the 90s. And there was some of the crew from New Zealand, Australia, and Europe. And what's Mark doing?
You mean the old white British guys, right?
The old white British, exactly. Yeah, colonial. Well, there was Australian and New Zealand as well, who were all like, "Oh my God, it's Aid," you know. So
he played Adam in this series, correct?
Adam Ennis, yes. Which, if you notice, the initials are Adrian Edmondson as well. So so I actually have, when I'm on set, I have an iPad around my neck, and that links to the cameras.
Right.
And I'm often, so I take a lot of screenshots of what the cameras are actually seeing. That's Calvin, who was here before at Songkran. We'll come back. And so anyway, I monitor what's going on through the cameras. So I can actually monitor 4 cameras. If we have up to 4 cameras at a time running, I can monitor what's going on, because obviously I need to know what the camera's seeing, so that I need to see what I need to cover. And anyway, there was one time I was there looking at it, and I realized the camera was on Adrian, and I was like right behind, because it was just a rehearsal or something like that. And I realized I was literally there. I was like, oh, it's me. Okay. So I just put my hand on the screenshot button, And I just sort of looked and then did a screenshot because I was like, you know,
That's
when
great.
am I gonna, you know?
Great.
And that was near the end of the screening. That was in the prison cell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where so there was some dialogue. So if you notice in the final, he didn't actually say anything or do anything. He was kind of, because he was sort of disabled at that point. But there was actually some more dialogue. And speaking of there's the prison cell. And that room is actually the same room. That set, the room that set is in, the outside. That's the same room that was the transition room, where the children went from one body to the other body.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So what they did was they took out the middle of that, and then they dirtied it all down, and then they put in this kind of cage into the middle.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah. I was really impressed with the fact that you did full sunlight, daylight aliens shots in the show. And that was never been done before.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's Jade. She's up on the ceiling. So this is a good example of the sort of stuff that we have to have enough information for. So one of the things that's been interesting in the comments that I've seen online, you know, about the show, I've seen a lot of people complaining about, you can tell it's a person in a suit. It's a guy in a suit, whatever. And I'm like, you know, I grew up in the sort of practical background, models and miniatures, and you know, from the original sort of stuff, and that I like the combination. And I moved into CGI, and so I'm used to seeing all these, you know, comments about, the CGI looks so fake. You should go back to do it practical. Practical's so much better. And then on this show, they spent a fortune, and I mean a fortune, having all these suits made, various versions of the suits. And I think it looks great.
It did.
They have these practical suits, and you know, which is back to the original ethos of the Alien, and that it is a guy in a suit. And then I see a lot of people online going, it's a guy in a suit. It looks so much better if it was CGI. And I'm like,
I actually love it. I think it looks fantastic. And you know, the one of the reasons why I like it is because you see the fluidity of the way they move.
Yes.
But I was actually going to ask, like, so I mentioned the paint job of, you know, the younger xenomorph and how much I appreciate it, because I could see all the detail. All the aliens are pretty fantastic. And I was going to ask, I mean, obviously the eyeball is not one of them, but were any of the other alien species also practical effects, or was it
okay? So for all of the other, so for the tick, the fly, the orchid, and the eyeball, none of them, pretty much very little of what you saw on screen was actually practical.
Okay.
Very little. The orchid, when they first discover the orchid and it's up in the ceiling, and then the little tentacle thing comes out, what's up in the ceiling was they did build that, and they did actually build. There is, I can't find it. I know I have footage somewhere. They actually had that where it could open up and come down and grab and take up. They did actually build that rig, and they did shoot DM, you know, doing that.
That's cool.
But as you saw on screen, they made it more sort of flexible. I think it was a bit too mechanical, maybe in the end. So no. So of the other creatures, very little of what was practical, but they did have on-set practical pieces for everything, for almost every shot. I mean, we had multiple sizes. Like for the fly, we had everything from like little larvae things to, you know, all the way up, and the big ones were about, you know, yay big. We had, so there's a company in Thailand called Second Skin. They actually handled all of the non-xeno, although they did build the chest burster and the eggs as well. So just backtracking slightly, there was 3 makeup effects practical companies that were involved. So Weta Workshop from New Zealand.
Yep.
They did the Xenos, the 2 Xenos, and they did the face huggers.
Nice.
Okay. Hey guys.
Yo.
Yeah, but I'm going to stop you guys for a sec. Number one, I wanted to comment. I didn't get a chance to butt in, but people who are complaining about a person being in a suit. Yeah, well, Bruce the Shark wasn't a real shark either, and look how well, you know, that did. If people want to keep that, you know, that vision of this is supposed to be a CGI monster, whatever. But I do want to share this bit before we go on the next. I'll give you a break to save your throat just a little bit, because I can see how long this is going to go, which is absolutely fine, because I actually made it to the refrigerator to kind of lubricate myself.
Yes.
In the meantime, while I continue to lubricate myself, I want you guys to watch this, okay?
So good. So
Great
good.
moment. Great moment.
Yeah, epic moment.
So good, and so I called it beautifully disgusting.
Yes, absolutely.
Because yeah, and it was even disturbing. That was the sheep at the end. So it even the previs that was done to sort of figure out how that shot was going to be done or how it was going to be shot was kind of disturbing as well.
Sure.
Yeah, so
he's the scene stealer of the entire show.
Yes.
I think he's the show stealer. It's like
yeah.
I've seen more. I'll be honest. The one thing that's amazed me about this show is the amount of fan art and fan creations I've already seen.
So much.
Just on my sort of limited Facebook view of what's out there.
Yep.
Because when you see somebody making something, I've seen people making Halloween costumes, of a sheep costume, of a sheep outfit with an eye stuck on, and I'm ready for Halloween. I'm going, wow, this is,
I've seen so many eyeball related,
right,
a Halloween treat or a Halloween costume in some way. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So, so it's taken over, and so what I was talking about before was that we had there's Weta did that stuff, and then company in Thailand called Second Skin, they basically handled the chest bursters, the eggs, and all the other alien species.
Nice.
And then there was a third company called MooFX out of the US, Steve Painter's company. They basically handled all the essentially the human gore. So all the dead humans, all the chunks of humans,
nice.
all the so they handled all of that, including, and so this is a good example. Sorry, hold there, Mark. This is a good example of what Second Skin did. So what they did was they made practical versions of all the aliens that we then had. So when you had those jars in the background or they were in there, and then we would have versions like this where we could have them on set as reference. We would put them there we would actually, sometimes we would, like the one that's on the stick, we would actually move them around. Sometimes I'd have the director go, okay, tell me where it's going to go. I need to know. Okay, so it's going to come out here. It's going to go up here. It's going to go over there. And it's going to go down here. Okay, so you block out where it's going to go, how fast it's going to move with this guy on a stick. Then the camera team and the lighting can figure out, okay, so the camera's got to, and we would rehearse it with this guy. We would actually shoot it with this guy as like a lighting reference. And then we would take it away, and then the actors and the camera would then do the exact same move again with nothing there. And then obviously we would then add in a CG version afterwards. And there was the versions. Oh, sorry, go back a second, Mark. Sorry, go back to the three. Okay, so the guy, there was actually several versions. So we had Mr. Floppy, who's the one sort of on the table. That one was all soft. Everything was squishy. The eyeball was squishy. The tentacles were squishy, and that one would just flop around. There was nothing inside it at all. The one at the back had a hard eyeball with floppy legs. And then the one that's sort of in the right foreground had a hard eyeball. It was a floppy, but it had a wire armature inside it. So those legs actually had wires going through them so that we could actually put, if we needed to kind of put it on set somewhere on a table or something, we could kind of bend the arms, kind of go, okay, he's going to be about here. And then we would take photos, or we'd take reference with the camera of, and we had like a box of different versions that we could use, and they were all, and we knew that they were all going to be. We knew none of these were actually going to get seen on the final edit, but they were still perfectly built. I mean, they're made really, really nice pieces, and gave a good on-set reference of how they would look and how the final would look.
That's got to help a lot. And I have to say, the decision about how it moves.
Yes.
Like, because it kind of psychs people out a bit, because at first it pauses because it's such a careful and intelligent being. It pauses and it starts to move and then pauses again. And then when you see how it moves across the screen, almost like an octopus on crack.
Yeah.
And just speeds at them, and then uses the tentacles almost like Spider-Man to attach to it. I mean, it's terrifying.
Yeah, and I thought it's interesting too how the eyeball clearly is formidable enough to go up against one of the aliens, which was one of my.
Well, it tried to get into one of them.
Yes,
in episode 5,
and I so wanted that to happen.
Yeah, so actually, it's in that scene or that sequence. In the final show was actually slightly cut down. Because the bit when it jumps onto the Xeno, and they kind of go into, there's like a little kitchenette bit in the back of the bridge.
Yeah.
We actually filmed a lot in there of it, the Xeno smashing around. He wrecks the whole kitchen. There's stuff right, we actually did that about 3 or 4 times. There's like literally the props guys were coming in with a shovel and shoveling up all the debris and then resetting it all, and then we went again. I mean, and so I think the implication was that the image was really having a good go trying to figure out where the eyeball was on the Xeno, which it doesn't have.
And how even using whatever is available to the eyeball could make it as formidable. Throwing the alien around, that was just awesome.
All right, I really need to make a point. So, guys, when you see my finger go up, I have something important to say. So, I want to make people aware that, and we did not mention this, and that was mainly my fault, that this is a very, very spoiler-heavy episode.
Sorry.
In fact, it's 100% spoiler.
Yes.
Okay, so if you have not, Mike had already mentioned in the chat room that he just finished watching Alien Earth prior to him coming on air, to watch the show. So thank you so much for that, Mike, that you did finish it, because we would have spoiled. And I can't wait until we get to the ending, because we got a lot to talk about there as well. But this is very spoiler heavy. If you have not seen Alien Earth, my apologies. I don't want you to leave us, but just go la 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 for a little bit and just watch our beautiful faces for the next hour. So just do that. All right, continue on. I'm popping out so I can run through these photos again.
That's okay. I did see a comment from Mike about the tail handler. So yes, whether we did have so the tail was actually one of those constant. not going to say a problem. It wasn't a problem, but it's difficult because the tail on the Xeno, that's something that has a lot of uses and obviously a lot of threats. It can swing around and stab you and stuff like that. So yes, so there was a various versions of the tail, and we had they had it on a stick and they could move it around. But to be honest, in most of the shots, I'd say 70-80% of the shots, the tail wasn't there, and that was going to be a CG tail, and that mostly was actually from a safety kind of view more than practicality. There was quite a few times where we actually had the tail. We actually had a tail with two sticks. So one would be where it was connected to the body, and one was the wiggle around one. Yeah. There was actually quite a few times where we would shoot it without the tail, and then I'd have them come in with the tail and go, okay, the tail's here, and just so we had a reference of the real tail in the lighting of where we were shooting. So then when they put the CG tail on, so that. It's interesting. That's actually not my photo, but I have a photo from exactly the same time, which I posted a couple of weeks ago. Because that was Cam's. As soon as I saw him sitting like that, I was like, I've got to take a photo of this. So somebody else, obviously, I don't know who took that one.
Yeah,
somebody else took that one as well. So and I had to take this one because of Jade with her.
The flip-flops. It's awesome.
And there's another one I took of Cam with his Adidas on, which again is funny because somebody else also took a photo of Cam and posted it online of him with his Adidas trainers on. And the reason, sorry, I deviate very easily and talk a lot, but
no, you're good.
The reason why I took that photo and this photo is that there's a very famous story from the original Star Wars with Peter Cushing.
Yep.
With his slippers.
Yes.
So, okay, you're both nodding your heads, so you already know the story. So yeah, and I always remember that. I just think it's hilarious seeing this behind the scenes photos, of him, chastising, Leia or whatever, and he's got his brown slippers on.
Yeah, I love that. It's so good, right?
So when I saw Cam, it was actually one of the first, second or third day I was on set, and we were doing that scene in the lobby when it. When he's on the statue.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so good.
Yeah. That was actually one of the first. It was one of the early days, and he was sitting, getting ready, and I saw him with these with his trainers on, and I thought, oh, I got to get a photo of this because I just immediately thought of Peter with his slippers, and I'm like, here's a Xeno with his Adidases. So, so then when I saw Jade with her Nemo, so that's Sabu on the left actually. Yes. So. Nice. She was taking this one because she's got her braces. That was actually the reasoning was because she's got her braces on. I love it. So
I'm really curious. You've been part of some pretty iconic worlds, Firefly, Battlestar Trek, all those things, and so now you're stepping into the Alien. And how does that compare? But also in terms of carrying that franchise, and then also keeping that in mind while you're pushing into new territory. What is that like? I mean,
I to be honest, I never thought it would happen. I mean, I'd be honest, I never thought that there would be, so I work in visual effects. I mostly work on television, and I actually like working. I've worked on a few films, bits and pieces, but I haven't, I get a lot of people sort of, why don't you work on the Marvel film or this film or Harry Potter film? I go, well, I'd like to, but I seem to have found my niche in television. And there is a different way of working in television because we, to be honest, up until recently, we always had less time and less money. That was always one of the challenges of television. Especially back doing Star Trek Voyager, when you compare that to the budgets that we have nowadays for televisions, it was Game of Thrones kind of changed everything and suddenly up the ante.
Absolutely.
That Star Trek Next Generation, when that came out in the late 80s, that kind of did the same thing. You can see that there was these periods of basically, and I always tell people, I think that killed a lot of science fiction on television, like Doctor Who. I think definitely couldn't, because when Next Gen came out, it's so up the ante that everything else went and they kind of had to go away for a bit. And it wasn't until sort of like the early mid 90s when other shows, and even those shows were having a tough time.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about shows like Sequest and Babylon 5 and Space Above and Beyond, and those sort of shows that came in that sort of early 90s. And you remember, but that was sort of 5-6 years after Next Gen, and Next Gen was almost getting to the end of its run. And then everybody else was going, okay, now we can have a breather and try and catch up. And it took a lot of places like 5 years to catch up. And so what happened with television then is, kind of went into that sort of CGI period, which is when I joined it. And then when shows like Game of Thrones came along, suddenly, HBO was like throwing tens of millions of dollars at them and going, okay, we want movie quality TV. And that's, so now we're currently in that sort of era where TV was always looked at as being the sort of the second, the stepson. Like we, I've got to do TV. Oh, well, and people in my industry would always look down at us, because we were in TV, and I was just like, well, actually, to be honest, we're trying to do what you guys are doing with $20 and a pizza if we're lucky.
Right.
But it was a good challenge. It was a good challenge, and I always view television as a lot more. We would love to have the budgets and time of movies. We always, but then, I'm always like, no. I kind of like that we're slightly, even with the bigger budgets nowadays, we're still essentially still a bit of an underdog, because although this production, I don't know the actual budget for Alien Earth. It's into big numbers, but it's still, to be honest, the whole season. So we're talking 8. It's only 8 episodes. So we're talking about 6 hours of finished programming, which is the equivalent of 2 or 3 big films for less than what they would spend on one film.
Yes.
So we're still, even though the budgets, television budgets are way bigger than what they used to be, we're still, producing stuff, I think, at film quality. Yeah. At still a fraction, still a percentage of. And to go back to like working on Battlestar Galactica, which is rapidly becoming the old Battlestar.
Right? Isn't that crazy?
It is. Yeah.
It's weird. We always called it the new Battlestar, and now I'm going, well, it's not so new anymore. It's been 20 plus years.
True.
Especially if Rocco Bannon actually is able to get this next sequel off the ground.
Yes.
There's been a lot of talk about it, but I mean, I agree with you. I mean, like I've been saying for years that Game of Thrones upped the ante and brought prestige format
in a good way.
Absolutely.
No
it's my favorite. It's my favorite TV series of all time. I mean, I've got House Stark right here on my.
Okay. Then.
So I mean, but I mean, I think it did. But when people complain about it, I say the same thing that you've said, which is like, hey, maybe it's not the exact same quality as a film, but if you consider that you're getting like anywhere from 6 to 10 hours worth at nearly film quality, and you take that budget and compare it to like one of the bigger budget films, it actually is a huge undertaking, and it's amazing that you guys are able to accomplish what you can. And I mean, like what Mark Street said. I mean, I went back and looked at your IMDb. I'm like some of the series that you've worked on over the years are near and dear to my heart. Firefly being one of the biggest. I mean, Firefly is, for those brown coats out there, it's a great series. So I mean, you've definitely worked on some amazing stuff.
I've definitely been lucky, to have worked on, most of the major sci-fi franchises. I'm actually, I've almost reached the point now where I'm actually kind of desperate to work on Doctor Who, because I'm originally from the UK.
Makes sense.
I almost feel like, and I have actually actively been pursuing Red Dwarf, because there is a new Red Dwarf in the works. Yeah. Although it's kind of on hold again. It's been on and off for the last year or two.
For a while,
I have actually been actively trying to, and so that and Red Dwarf, Red Dwarf and Doctor Who, I actually have been actively putting my fingers out there to people I know that are involved with them, to kind of go, even if it's literally like just working on one shot, even if it's something I literally like, they give me, just something to do on one shot. I just want to, because I almost feel like
it's interesting about the elevation of the effects between shows. Even Doctor Who, when the ninth Doctor came on board, they're like, "Oh, we've got to step our game up for this show," and they've just continued to do so.
When the show came back, it it obviously had to.
Yes.
That was 20 years ago now.
Yes. So.
Which is crazy.
This newest season was gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, like
So the last two seasons,
amazing.
So the last two seasons, they had a very large. So they made a deal with Disney for Disney Plus to show Doctor Who, and then up the viewership or whatever. So Disney actually injected a whole bunch. So you'll notice, the VFX, especially in the sets and stuff, in the last two seasons with Ncuti was quite a step up, even from what they had been doing beforehand. And that was because it was now going to be a Disney Plus show as well. So I'm not sure if I don't know if that's a long-term thing or it was just a short-term thing. I actually don't know.
But who knows at this point? They don't even know where they're going to go with it. Right?
I remember them signing a multi-season deal. So this was obviously the first one, and he what's his name? I can't pronounce his name. Anyway, he stepped away.
He's already stepped away.
So obviously we've got a new Doctor incoming, but I think I remember the press release was a multi-season deal. I don't know how long, but
I do believe there's
so back to to Firefly. Sorry, because you got your poster on the wall behind you.
Yes,
which is great. Yeah,
so good. I have I have 4 of them actually.
Oh wow. Firefly is, I don't know, that is an enigma, I think, is the best word I can think of for Firefly, because I've tried to analyze it, because I'm like, why is it still going? Why is it? Because you get shows that were popular and they're hugely popular, but then they just kind of fizzle away. And the only thing I've ever been able to really figure out is it's kind of the James Dean, Marilyn Monroe type of thing, in that they were cut off. They never, and everybody kind of goes, oh, they never had a chance, or there was, and so it's always that sort of, we never got to know what it could have been. So everybody tries to make their own version of what it, and obviously there's been books and audiobooks and comic books and games and stuff. So it hasn't gone away. And I even see interviews with the cast, and they still, I saw one with Alan Tudyk, not just recently, talking about, I think it was Resident Alien or maybe the new Superman. I can't remember. He was, because he's in everything.
Yes, he is.
He's like, oh, and you hear his voice and you go, oh, that's Alan.
There's Alan.
It's like, but it was, I think it was about maybe Superman. Somebody was interviewing about, and still Firefly came up.
Always. Well, and it went so far as had amazing character and dialogue, but the effects were something new. No one had seen stuff like this before. So, and I remember watching the first episode of BSG, and I had jumped off the couch and went, "Did the Firefly just go overhead?" Because I swear there's that scene where in BSG you guys put the
Firefly.
So
the VFX team. So the weird good thing that came out of Firefly being cancelled for us was that the team that was assembled to do Firefly essentially was the same team that did the first season. Not the first season, the miniseries, the 2-episode 4-hour miniseries of Battlestar. And so in some ways, because Firefly, and we got the Battlestar gig because they'd seen the VFX on Firefly, and we'll get those guys, and we'd got cancelled already, so it was kind of like
let's do this.
It was and then carried on after the miniseries. So there was a different thing. And we do like to put little in jokes every so often.
Yes, which I love, but also it has that weird, almost like war photographer footage where the camera zooms and then there's a shake, and it's something we hadn't seen. It felt more real than anything we'd had before.
Well, that was Lonnie Pirsty, who was the VFX supervisor on Firefly, working with Joss Whedon, and they wanted Firefly to have this NYPD. It was actually, that was where they call it cinema verite, but it was really NYPD. It was NYPD Blue, basically. Was like that was they wanted that sort of documentary, but not documentary kind of feel to it. And that was very much the drive. And on Firefly, for sure, there was almost no tripods on set.
Right.
Like literally the tripods, and I talk about tripods, I'm not talking about the H.G. Wells things, the sticks. They would have them to put the camera on between takes, but on set it was almost all handheld. So that kind of was good for us, because that was that drove how we made our shots look, because we didn't want to suddenly go from one style to another style. We really wanted to keep it consistent and go from one to the other.
It has that total run and gun style,
Yes.
Yeah. And we got to have some good fun with it. And it was also, it was in that transition period where CGI, in that early 2000s, television CGI was just finally getting some of the tools that movie CGI had already got. Because again, and at that time, the disparity between the budgets between movies and TV was vast. Now it's less, but still there. And so one of the things we had was that the software tools that we had available, we were limited, with what we had. But there was in that early 2000s, there was definitely a period where a bunch of these tools, and especially in the lighting and the look of things like that we could then, and also, to be perfectly honest, it even came down to literally just the processors, the actual computers, how much processing power they had, because compared to what we have nowadays, we for those old enough to remember, we were doing Star Trek Voyager on Pentiums.
Yes.
Oh, God.
running Windows NT.
Wow.
With I forget how much memory, but like not a lot.
Right.
Not a lot at all.
256 megabytes, something like that.
Right.
If we were lucky.
Yeah.
Probably less than that, actually. I'm not joking.
Well, like
All
Babylon 5,
right,
they were using Amigas.
Amigas, yes. Mark has a question.
All right. Yeah, I'm breaking in, because otherwise you guys will be going on without breathing or drinking or hydrating or anything like that. So, Leah, I want you to look at this question. Don't answer it. I want you to look at this question, and I'm about to give you guys another 1 minute break or so. And that is from Jackie, of course. And this is important for what you're going to see next. And she asks, do you use real animals as a that's a good question, actually, for a basis for movement. And while I juggle around here, Mr. Octopus, as I'm called when I'm doing these shows sometimes, take a look at this. Remember the question, okay? And also the topic that you just broke off of, which was CGI work, okay? Stand by. All righty. There you go. So,
okay,
Jackie, is that question for you? What do you have to say?
Absolutely. I mean, everything. I feel everything that we do in visual effects, we're looking at real. That's the. Okay, I taught in VFX for a while, and there was one word that basically, sums up everything that you should when you're learning VFX. There's one word that sums up everything. Yeah, we'll come back to that, guy. And that is observation. You want to be, it's observing the real world, whether it is movement, whether it's lighting, whether it's texture, whether it's atmospherics, anything because you're trying to simulate the real world. So yeah, absolutely, animal movement is critical. And I remember back in early CGI, especially with things like Jurassic Park and Jumanji. I remember specifically Jumanji, but it had a lot of. I don't remember when the jungle first bursts out and the town is being overrun by monkeys and elephants and things like this. And at the time, that was quite a revolutionary film, for visual effects, because, and obviously they were studying real world, real animals, real movements for Jurassic, for the movements of some of the dinosaurs. So no, we're absolutely looking at real world stuff all the time. And for me, because I'm more of a spaceship guy than a creature guy, I'm always looking at whatever's going on with NASA and the real space program. Whenever we're looking at space shots, we can never really replicate that because, to be honest, at the moment everything moves a little bit too slow and almost boring in space, but it looks great.
Yeah.
And so we look more at the how it's lighting. So. And going back to Alien Earth with the sheep. So with the sheep, there was 3-4 versions of the sheep. So we did have a real sheep. So in the scene that we played earlier, when the eye first comes out, and so that was our non-animatronic sheep. That's our non-animatronic sheep. So we had a real sheep. And as I say, in the scene that we played earlier, not the one that was just played, the earlier one, when the eye first gets into him, all the shots up until when the eye jumps at the sheep, that was the real sheep. That was the real sheep.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
and they had an animal trainer who handled all of the animals on set, from the cat to, we had a rat, we had the sheep. We had crabs, we had all sorts of real creatures. Anyway, but they had taught the sheep to actually back up and do some actual.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, they did actually. So that is the real sheep. And then it went to the
seamless.
CGI. Yeah. And then, so obviously when it's flashing around and stuff like that, it's the CGI sheep. And then we had so there was an animatronic sheep that actually could move its head and sort of do stuff, and that was used for a bunch of the shots, and again a lot for stand-in. And then there was kind of like a stuffed sheep, the dead one that's lying on the ground or whatever. So actually, even quite a lot of the shots that you see where the eye is actually, when you're close, like was just in that last clip where you're seeing the eye, the actual body was the animatronic sheep, and then the eye was replaced. And so we would shoot that. So we're always looking at, we're always referencing real world, real animals. So that's the I don't know if that's the animatronic. I can never tell between the animatronic one. That's the non-animatronic one.
That's the non.
Clearly.
There is
one of my earliest memories of that kind of inspired me, as far as being an artist myself, was I saw a behind the scenes video when I was very, very young, probably 4 or 5, of Walt Disney Studios, and it had a bunch of animators in a stylized kind of room where it was almost like stadium style seating, but it was very small. You could only fit maybe 50 people in there, and they would bring animals in for the feature animated films that they would work on, and you'd see a whole room of artists that are drawing their movements, not only the contours of their body and the intricacies, but how they move and how their unique physiology differs from our own, and that really, I don't know why, but that captured my imagination. And it's great to hear that that sensibility that was kind of instilled from early animation continued on through various different productions and companies with the same idea in mind, which is believability. So.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, if I could interject, that's a good point, Joe. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did not know as a child, and probably even growing up in my early 20s and maybe my 80s, didn't realize that when a horse walks, both his legs on one side come together.
Right.
I'm like, how the hell is he standing up? With that happening? But it just goes to show how I guess the animals on this planet were
Well-
designed and how they move. And moving down here to Florida, I was told, never practice this. Okay, I want you guys to make sure you have this in your brain right now. Never practice this. But if you ever want to outrun an alligator, you zigzag, because an alligator cannot move left and right. He goes in one straight direction.
Right.
It's just a burst of speed in one direction.
So just make sure that somebody else who's with you doesn't know that.
Exactly.
Well, like someone like you, Lee, if I knew you were running alongside me while we're being chased by an alligator, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do?
You go that way, I'll go this way. And...
No, we trip you up. We trip you up, buddy boy. Okay, that's how you save a life. Real clear, one last clip right here. We're past our first hour, which, you know, I politely ask people to join us for an hour, but I don't stop them if they want to continue for more. But since you are on the subject of animals or whatever, I got this one last clip, which freaked the living daylights out of me because it's out of episode 1, by the way. Check this out and we'll be right back to you. Don't throw up on your mics, okay? You know, I already don't like cats, okay? And I don't know if I should feel sympathetic about this creature or root for the octopus eye. You know, it's like, yeah, Johnny Quest.
Yeah, I think you know, but everybody loves Jonesy.
Yes.
And this obviously isn't Jonesy, but I think that was a good way to sort of throw everybody off kilter by, you know, literally the first thing you see is the cat, and the cat has been overtaken. Not by the alien we know, but overtaken by another alien. And I think it was a good way to sort of set up the tone of the show in that, you know, I mean, for me, the best part of the show, and again, it's funny because, you know, we're talking about, you know, the whole thing of the CGI versus the practical, you know, xenomorph. The other big thing I've seen so many people, you know, when I've seen complaints about the show, they're like, you know, oh, why are we bothering with these synthetics, or why are we bothering with these others? I just want to see some action with the xenomorphs and whatever. And I'm going, yeah, and if they had just made aliens again, then everybody would be complaining that, oh, they've just done the same thing over and over again and whatever.
Totally.
And I'm like, no, like right from when I started reading the scripts on the show, the main thing that I got from what the show was trying to do and what Noah was trying to do is expand the universe. I mean, there is a, you know, the whole thing that I like about good fantasy or sci-fi or any storytelling, you know, whether it's Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or Star Wars, it's that there's a world, there's a universe, whether it's one that we are part of or whether it's one from, you know, an alternate universe or an alternate timeline. You know, you want there to be a world building. And while especially the first two, you know, Alien, obviously it's not got a huge amount of world building because it's all on one ship and it's all, you know, but you're already kind of, you're establishing a bit of a world because you're getting this sort of thing about the company and the life on the ship and stuff like that. Then obviously Aliens expanded that a little bit more, and then the other films, not as much as we were hoping. I mean, Romulus. The good thing about, you know, Romulus, not going to get into Romulus because I wasn't on that, but was that at least it did have a little, again, it had a little bit of world building. It kind of showed that there was other things going on, but then it kind of went, and then it went back into sort of the atypical alien story, which was, I think, what a lot of people liked and whatever. But then for me with Earth was the whole point for me about Earth was that it's expanding quite dramatic, quite
right
in a big way. It's expanding the universe.
Lee, you're making a great point, and I'll tell you why. For those of us that are aging gracefully on the screen as we speak, my mother took me to see 2001: A Space Odyssey in the theater. She also took me to see Planet of the Apes in the theater, and I can't tell you the number of times that I was smacked on the back of the head because I said, "Oh, I think I know how they did that," rather than sticking straight to the storyline. Yeah. But in retrospect, if you are in fact someone that wants to bash the Alien series, the all the movies that came out, whatever, which I don't. You're entertaining me. If I liked it, I liked it. If I didn't, I didn't. I'm not going to be, part of the Star Wars crew. Okay, they want to bash every episode imaginable. It's like, dudes, what are you doing? If you remember specifically in Aliens, because you did mention Aliens, and that's still probably my favorite out of the franchise. When they did land on that planet, when the Marines were briefed that they were going, what they literally said was another bug hunt.
Right.
That's
exactly.
Curiosity.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
What do you mean another bug hunt?
Right.
And they haven't even seen the one they're going after. What have they been doing prior to this? And why didn't people come up with that? So everything you're seeing in Alien Earth right now obviously existed. This is not new creations, for God's sake. So
and that's the great thing about good storytelling is literally one line.
Yes.
Suddenly, whoosh, you're going, oh wait, okay.
Well, that's the genesis of Rogue One. Rogue One is based on like one line.
Exactly, because they said it in A New Hope. A certain numbers of so and so died to get these planes. I'm like,
no, that was the second one.
That was the second one.
That was the second one. But but we were like, where did this plan that she gave to R2 come from? Yep. And it's like, so I think that if there's one thing that everybody should be thankful of with Earth is that it has expanded the universe. And now there are. I'm not going to get into the whole questions about how it fits in with the timeline and everything else, because I know that sci-fi fans love to make sure that everything fits within a certain. Oh, well, if this happened and this person was here at this time, then this person should be here at this.
Right.
I'm a fan as well. As much as I've managed. I've been lucky to work on all these shows. I am a fan as well, and I do pick fault, and I have comments, but
yeah, of course.
So obviously, Lee, I mean, obviously, the season's done and we all kind of know where it ends, and it clearly sets up for another season. And I know that there's and things that you can't say.
No, actually, so I'll cut you off right there. So so just so you know, the first, I literally, when I was reading episode 8, turned the page and went, oh shit. That's like, I love that. I literally did. I was like, damn it. Well, I guess there'll be season 2. That was literally my first comment.
And I've been looking, and Noah Hawley is obviously he wants season 2. The numbers have been great, and so I'm just curious if season 2 gets greenlit, and it looks like it probably will. Do you assume that like the same production team, you guys will still be involved with continuing seasons if it continues?
Yeah. So I was just trying to pull up a picture from Hogan's Heroes of the German. I know nothing. I see nothing. I hear nothing. I know nothing.
No. No.
But that's because he does know everything, and he does. Yes, I do know nothing. Yes,
we are paying you for this appearance, damn it. spill.
I didn't get that memo. Okay.
You will spill what we tell you to spill. But based on what Joe just basically said, let's do this now and let's backtrack later, because since we're towards the end, I want you to set up, exactly this incredible filming shot that was taken here. Tell me what happened here, where the hell they come from. Obviously not in the middle of the freaking water. Tell me what you know.
Well, that was one of my shots, actually. So these were the first Weyland-Yutani kind of SWAT team who were arriving on the island with Morrow to try and get stealthily one of their samples back without having a full-on military assault. So these guys, and actually one of them, and I can't tell which one. That's Jeff and Calvin. That's Calvin. So one of those, I think it's the guy in the middle, the third one from the left. That's actually Cameron Brown. He played the Xeno. So he was actually he's actually a stuntman. He played the Xeno for 4 episodes before they killed him off. And then he was sort of like the Xeno coach for Jade, who played the second Xeno. But he was also one of the Weyland troops who came in. This was interesting because this beach was quite a shallow beach. This is in Krabi. And this one beach, actually, so we shot on this one beach here, which is where all of the beach stuff. So when you see Morrow with his daughter having that, in the past, when he's having a fire with his daughter, that's on the same beach over to the left. The whole theme with Arthur with the chest burster, that is literally happening on the same beach over to the right. We all shot on the same beach. So the water here is actually kind of quite shallow. So they all had to go back, I don't know, probably 10, 15 meters, 20 yards. And then they all had to squat down because it wasn't deep enough. And obviously they didn't even have respirator gear on. They just had these sort of snorkel masks. And so they basically all went back. They all squatted down. So their heads were just, and then they came up and walked out of, in a dramatic way. So that's an
Very
island
cool.
just off the coast of Krabi.
I think you also mentioned on your page, Lee, they threw away these masks, you said?
Somebody made a comment. So they had these custom masks that they had made that had these like 2 snorkel kind of things off, and they were meant to look futuristic, and they were pretty cool looking. And no, somebody made mention that when they kind of walk out all macho and whatever, they kind of just rip them off and throw them away and just walk up the beach, And somebody on Facebook made a mention about, oh man, they just throw those things away. What's up with that? And I go, no. I can assure you the guy from props was in the water picking them up again because he had to clean them all off and get them all back on for the second take. So there's a guy called Standby Props, and they're the ones that are actually on set. And they're the ones that literally are having to like pick all the stuff up off the floor and get it ready for the next take, clean off all the blood and or whatever it is, the salt water. So
speaking of Morrow, Morrow was a great villain because I hated him the entire season.
Yes.
You know what? You know what? But I'm sorry, but I love women to death, but I had a little bit of a Woody for Kirsch. You know which one Kirsch was, right?
Yeah. That's Timothy. Yeah.
So I had a shot. I can't find it. I'm gonna have to go through these. I'm gonna have to go through these real quick because I can't enlarge them to see everything. But there's a shot that I think I got off your page, Lee, where Kirsch was literally bent over a table after the fight with Morrow.
Yeah, when he has his back breaking. That's actually not Tim. That's his stunt double. That's the stand-in double.
I would hope so.
Yeah. So here's a fun little thing. So when we were shooting, obviously Timothy Oliphant has got this. He's got like a bit of a spray tan on, and then they've made obviously his hair white or whatever. Yep. And there was one time where I was on set, and I don't know, the camera was on him and the lighting was on him, and I'm just like looking at it, and I went up to Migazi, who's one of the producer writers, and we would chat periodically, and I was just like, I'm getting these weird vibes off of. I was like, what's the inspiration for his look and his character? And he was like, well, the main one was Rutger Hauer from Blade Runner. When I was, because I was kind of like, it's like, and I'm saving this picture. I'll turn it around on my phone in a second. Yeah, and I was like, okay, I get it. And then I was like, oh, that's interesting, because obviously there are a lot of fan rumors about Blade Runner and Alien being in the sort of same universe. Yes. And to be perfectly honest, I mean, this show certainly doesn't, when we're talking about artificial life forms, and synthetic people, that is the core of Blade Runner, and that's quite the core of Alien Earth. So it's certainly they're like this. Like they're not going in, So I don't know. I seriously, again, I'm a fan as well. I think about these things. Yeah. I don't know whether that actually is anything that's
sure, but you could totally see that as being
absolutely.
However, it was very clear it was a Blade Runner.
Yeah,
at least.
Well. So I said I pulled this picture up on my phone and I showed it to Magazi, and I go, yeah, but I keep getting these vibes.
Oh yes! Oh my gosh! Yes.
Oh my god!
And it was partly because of the outfit as well, the gray outfit.
This island Earth. This island Earth. Yes.
Right. But it was literally, there was this one scene, I can't remember which one it was, but it was just the lighting, the way he was posed, the look, and I'm going, oh my god, it's this island Earth.
Yeah, totally.
He was on I think Stephen Colbert or Kimmel one night right after the show came out, and they asked him about the dye job, and it was when filming was still going on, but there was maybe a small break, and he was out to dinner with his wife, and they were in their neighborhood, and he said all these people that he normally knows at restaurants they go to and stuff were staring at him, and he forgot about the
he had
eyebrows. I love that.
White eyebrows on white. Yes.
He's like, I keep getting weird looks, and she's like, honey, look at
your
yeah, that was probably when the writer strike, the actor strike was on. So they did actually they actually started filming in 2023, in the late summer of 2023, and they got about 1 week in, and then the SAG strike kicked in.
Wow.
They were hoping, like everybody else, that it would only last for a couple of weeks. They actually continued to film for about 2 more weeks in 2023, because there was only 2 or 3 of the cast who were SAG, actually. Obviously, Timothy was one of them.
Yeah.
But then when they realized it was going on longer, they ended up having to shut down production, and then production shut down for nearly 6 months. So he would have gone home. He would have been back in LA, and he would have been back in LA with white hair and white eyebrows. Yeah, that was
looking back over the season. Then, what is the one effect that you're most proud of? And is it something that's super, we don't even realize? What's that one that you're just like, wow, that scene right there, that's the one that did it for me?
Let me think.
Pull out an easy question next time, Mark.
Yeah, because there was quite. I was only partially involved with, because Jeff handled it mostly, but I was there for part of it. I still think that the sheep is still.
I can see that.
I did all the stuff for the second version. This when the sheep was then attacking Alex.
Yeah.
When he was, and that actually was, again, it was a little bit longer, but that usually happens, is that things get trimmed when they're in the edit. So so I was there with the image. That was one I was more involved with. But the first kind of main scene with when the image goes into the sheep, that was handled by Jeff. And that's one where you just watch it and you're just like, and I'm kind of like, well, that's sort of what the show's meant. That's what Alien is to me, where you're just uncomfortable and you're backing up a little bit. And and even I knew long ago what was going to go on in that. but it's still watching the final version, you know, on TV here.
Yeah.
Especially because my wife didn't know, and so that's actually one thing I do like is watching stuff with people who don't know. And again, it's not really a VFX thing directly, but it sort of is. And again, I was there for the stuff with David, Arthur's character, you know, the character Arthur on the beach, you know, with the chest burster, and that was a great scene for me because I was the one doing, you know, the bits with the what would become the CG chest burster, and so one of the mind, like, you don't often see stuff that you kind of go, I think that was me doing that, because a lot of time, you know, you shouldn't be there, you shouldn't see what you're doing, but and again, and I'm not 100% sure whether it was what I'd done that was left, but when the facehugger goes through the sand running away from that was me with a stick with the green face chest burster.
I love it.
And I went, I think that might have been. But the thing with that scene was actually the stuff afterwards. So in the last episode, obviously, when the image, you know, so in the script, that shot when Arthur sits, and spoiler, if anybody hasn't seen the last episode, this is really going to spoil it. So when Arthur sits up, you know, at the end of near the end of episode 8, that's actually the last page of the script. That was actually it goes from I think it actually works better the way it is round, because obviously you end on Wendy when she's like, you know, we're rule now, you know, and you're like, and then obviously, you know, the music kicks in and everything else. So that's Sid and Mickey. Mickey was our primary female stunt replacement, so she was the stunt replacement for probably 2/3 of the women on the show in various wigs and outfits and stuff like that. And then there's a shot that was in the same series with Nick, and Nick was the primary male stunt double for most, and he did Alex, but he also did a whole bunch of the other characters. So
hey, let me add this real quick, going back real quick. I know Joe's got a easy question, but this wasn't going to be an easy question I'm asking here. It's not even a question. Okay. I just know who to choke out. For somebody who's been through eye surgery on both eyes, someone who's had constant injections in my eyeball, okay, over the last 2 years. Now that I know who I need to choke out because of that damn scene of a squid eyeball digging into a live specimen, because I'm sure that sucker ain't dead, digging into a live specimen, plucking out the eye, which really gets me off royally too, and then embedding itself in someone's brain. I'm coming after you, buddy.
That's what I was saying. The first scene when the eyeball goes into the sheep, it you know, as I say, I've known long ago what was going on there, but it's still, because you're like, the sheep ain't dead. Whereas with Arthur, he was already dead. So him sitting up, that was originally the last page of the script. So, but what was been really fun for the last 2 weeks or so was everybody online was going, who's the image going to go to next? It's going to come out of the sheep. It's going to go into somebody. And like everybody was speculating on who it was going to go to, and nobody got it. And I was, nobody, obviously nobody would think that it would be Arthur because he's dead.
Yes, right.
Well, I thought it was going to be his wife. I actually thought it was going to be his wife.
A lot of people did. I mean, a lot of people said it was going to be Alex, which obviously was the intention. And that's what they wanted it to do. And so one of the things that was fun watching that episode with my wife, Abby, was that, you know, at the beginning of the show, I said, I'm saying about, you know, there's a lot of people been speculating, like, where does the image go? Where do you think the image is going to go? And she was just like, I think it's going to be the wife. I think the wife's going to get the image. And I was like, okay. So we're watching the episode, and then obviously we get to the bit with Alex, and he goes, oh no, Alex. Oh yeah, he'd be yes. And then obviously it gets away from him and it runs away. And then she's just like, oh, well, where's the image going to go next? Okay, maybe it's going to, and I'm like,
yes,
because I like, and I'm trying desperately not to give it away,
bouncing around, second guessing.
And so I thought that it was great that nobody, as I say, nobody figured out that it would reanimate a dead body.
Right.
And
I
just
didn't
just
expect
so we're talking about animals and the question about using real animals or whatever. The crab, those crabs that were coming up the beach and were on him, and those were all real crabs. That we actually had to do that take about 5 or 6 times, trying to get the crabs to actually behave. And there was definitely not sticks that were painted out, because we were trying to get the crabs to stay in the right place and move it.
I love it.
It's that old thing with the person with a poking something, do something.
Yes.
Do something. So the crabs would either do too much or they would do nothing. So I learned crabs either move or they don't move. There's nothing in between.
I've seen 2, obviously the show has been a hit. I mean, it's got people talking, and maybe there's some extremist fanboys that want to pick things apart, but I think by and large, everyone I've talked to has loved the hell out of it. But I've seen 2 great memes just in the last week. And anytime something hits meme status, I think you're making it in some sense, at least in a cultural kind of anecdote. One was aliens versus crabs, but with the logo font style of Aliens versus Predator.
Right.
The xenomorph coming down, and then the crab is, they've taken that shot.
It's like
right, where the crab and the xeno
calls up. Fantastic. The other great one was I think it was like a quick little cartoon drawing of a predator, but with the eyeball.
Yeah,
I've seen that one. That one I've seen. Yes,
and I was like, that. You know what? If they
that would be awesome.
This eyeball thing, that would be the ultimate way to do it. Like, get one of those. So you call it an eye mage?
Midge.
Okay.
Midge. That was what it was called. Was the eye midge?
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah. So we had the eye midge. We had the
eyeball. So
eye midge is what it was officially called.
Nice.
Real quick before I get, so there was 2 quick questions I wanted to quickly on the. Jacqueline said, "Do you have any input on these designs?" No, unfortunately, not on this show. That was long before us, and there was a lot of other people involved in the designs of the. And then Mike says, "Do you know if there'll be a season 2?" And as I say, really no NDAs. I'm out of NDA at this point. No, I don't know anything. I've heard rumors. Let's put it this way: as even as a fan. I would be very surprised if there's not. I mean, there's a lot of talk these days about trimming shows and budget restrictions and blah, blah, blah. This is the biggest show on Disney Plus in years.
Yeah.
It's the only, they don't have anything else in the top 10 at all. Yes, they spent a lot of money on it. Yes, I saw somebody say 200, 250. I'll be honest, I think they probably spent with marketing, because they did a lot of marketing on this show.
Yeah,
a lot.
They did. I agree.
I'm going to say, I think they probably end up spending about 300. But, they spent more than that on Andor, a lot more than that on Andor.
Lot more.
And Andor, nothing against Andor. Andor's brilliant. I mean, I absolutely, I want more Andor, but they did spend a lot more on Andor than they did on Alien. And I think they got, I don't know the numbers. I think Alien got better ratings than Andor. And again, I got nothing against Andor's brilliant. I want more of it.
Yeah.
So
I want, actually, to be honest, speaking of fans, I want more. I want another season of Skeleton Crew.
Yes.
Kids.
Yeah.
I was like, that was,
I loved it.
Yeah. Make sure from this point on, you say Emmy award-winning Andor when you
Emmy award. Yeah. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Well, Moen's a friend of mine who was one of the VFX supervisor on it. So I was very glad to see that it won. So yep.
Hey, look. We don't have to go anywhere, in all honesty, but I don't want to hold up your time. But what I wanted to do is what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through quickly, not fast, but relatively calm speed of these photos, and anything that you feel you need to make mention of. Okay, tell me to stop, mark, go back. Okay, and then that way at least
please do.
Got through all the photos, because I know this is the show that we can the show Alien Earth, not our show, but this is a show that we could talk about forever, because there's so many different things that happen over 8 episodes only that we have questions on.
Yes.
You know, and unfortunately, we can't do it in relatively. Look, you're one of the most important people on this show, but I'm telling you, hold on, no. I'm telling you, if I had an actor on this show, we'd be done in 60 minutes. Okay, this would be 60 minutes. So we appreciate you hanging in as long as you. I mean, I had to pee 30 minutes ago, but screw that. You know? So I'm gonna go through these right now, and then you give me a thumbs. You know, you tell me, Mark, back up. I got something I want to say about that, or something you need to hear. Okay.
Yep. All right.
We know who that guy is.
Yeah, that was me taking a selfie on the corridor. That was not mine. That was one of the other crews. They sent that out as a at the end. I don't know who that was. That was the 360 of the gallery. So that's Chris in the red shirt. He's the local producer. Runs a company called Living Films. They actually did all of the local. That's Paddy, who's the on-set photographer on the bridge. That's one of the makeup effects. That's Moo effects. That's with the what's his name? No, that's not Clem. That's Malika. That's the dead captain. That's Dinsdale. Yes, I thought that was great. The fact that they tried to cut the tail off and then it took his head off. So this is one of Wedder's face huggers, and the detail I put that on is that's Nick on the left. He's the stunt guy I was talking about earlier, and that's Clem.
Hey, have you been to Wedder? I had an open invitation years ago to go and see those guys because we had a bunch of those guys at our shows in Germany. Right. During Lord of the Rings. This was right after Lord of the Rings was being. Go. We had Richard. We had Richard out there. We had Gino. We had a bunch of Wedder execs. But yeah, I had an open invitation. I just never. New Zealand is a long freaking flight, dude.
No, it's not. No,
and take me with you.
And
yeah,
Mark, I could talk about that. I lived in New Zealand for 2 years as a kid. I've been back, I have been to Wedder. Seriously, you're retired now. Go for 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm not joking. 3 or 4 weeks, go to New Zealand. It is phenomenal. You need 3 or 4 weeks because. From
North and South Islands. We're talking North and South Islands, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of the best things to do there is to rent a little RV, a little camper van, and drive around. That's what a lot of people do there.
Really?
But seriously, it's just seriously go to New Zealand, especially if you got an invitation to go to Wedder. Go.
Yeah, hey, look, Lee, I'm retired. I didn't tell you, but I'm retired now.
I know you are. I've seen. Yeah, I'm saying go. I'm not joking.
Now. Yeah. Let's see, where were we on these things? I think we were
at the face. I'll click forward a couple from there. Yep.
That one.
Keep going. No, keep going. Dead Denzel. There we are. That's where we got to. Yep. Yeah, stunt guy. That's Clem and Tom. Tom, who plays Clem, and Nick, Tom's on the right. Nick is on the left. He's the stunt guy. So sorry, he closed his eyes. So that's Babu. Wonderful. I tell you, everybody loves to hate, the character. But Babu, the person, the actor, he's great. He's very chill, very easy to hang out with.
And everybody knows the villain has the best roles and the best lines.
It's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a rad. I love the look of the cyber.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Is that a glove he's wearing?
Yeah, it is. It's actually all the way up to the elbow. So
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It had a lot of CG augmentation, but
that's really
I was about to say it's not green or it's not blue, so it's interesting.
No. They made because in a lot of the shots it didn't need to be replaced, so they made a glove. But there was augmentation, and obviously there was the time when he has the welding torch comes out and the blade comes out, and that was CG. And although again, like with the other stuff, he did have a practical knife, and he did have a practical blowtorch that we put in there, and then we shot it, and then obviously it was a CG version that kind of did the transformation. Yeah.
I did see a little humanity come out of him when he did tell the Indian guy that he didn't harm his mother.
Right. I think he was looking at. I think that was self-preservation at that point.
Yeah, I think so.
That's
enough.
He was kind of going, So that's a costume designer in the middle, and that's Noah, the showrunner on the right. I just was walking by and happened to see them. That's me taking another selfie on the bridge. The bridge was just the main thing. When I kept telling everybody, I was like, this is what a spaceship bridge should be like. It's the buttons and lights and switches, and it's all lots of old junk and CRTs and everything else. It was
kind of like how they did. I kind of like how they did mix a little of the old school in terms of monitors and things of that nature, much like how Alien first opened up when you saw the movie, how it woke everybody up. You still got that.
They had, they definitely made the whole thing, and the stuff on the Maginot was based on the tech and the look from Alien, and then the stuff on Earth was going more with the tech and the look from Aliens. And then they mixed. They did, and if you look at that's one of the. I don't remember his name. Yeah, he was actually cleaning the inside of the pod.
I thought so. I thought that was the janitor or something. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's not the janitor. I can't remember his actual job, but yeah, he was actually cleaning all the fingerprints off the inside, because that's where the sheep was, and then that's where Alex gets in to try and hide from the eye creature, from the eye midge. Yeah. So that was actually when we were in Krabi getting back. So the buses, the coaches and stuff that took us back to the hotel, they couldn't come down. We literally had this like one road that went down to the beach area and the jungle area, and the main vehicles couldn't go down there. So they had these like pickups and shuttle buses that were taking us back and forward. And so because there was only a few of them, like everybody would they would pile everybody on, and everybody would pile on as many as possible. And I was on another vehicle that had equally as many people on it, because we all, this is in the end of the day, and everybody just wants to go home, back to the hotel.
Right.
So this is one I love, because this shows what the grips do, and one of the jobs of grips, which is to make sure that the dolly track, so the dolly track obviously that the camera travels on, needs to be perfectly flat and perfectly level. Even if it's actually doing movement, that movement is done by the arm that the camera is on. So the camera's on an arm that then is on that trolley, and you can see it above there. But the track, in order for things to run smoothly and it not roll off or whatever, it has to be perfectly flat. And so I just love the fact that we're out in Thailand in the jungle, and there's still whatever's needed to make sure that track is perfectly flat. I think that this sums that up. Yeah,
that is awesome. Yeah,
and it looks rickety as well, but it's stable. That's the other thing. But it's this one I took for all the fans, actually. This is the thing I knew there'd be the cosplayers who wanted. I literally took this one because it has the Wayland. This was from the Wayland SWAT guys that came out of the water.
Yeah.
And I saw that kind of patch thing on the arm, and I went, "Oh, that's pretty cool looking." And I don't think you'll ever really see it in the show. You really don't see it, but I just
you can tell how much Velcro is involved on this outfit too.
Yeah. And so that it's not actually a patch. Well, if you go back real quick, the fabric has been like laser cut for the WY.
Oh wow!
And then behind it, there's like a piece of sort of shiny, clear Lexan or something. So it's actually so there's a piece of Lexan with the fabric kind of stuck on it that's been laser cut out with the WY.
Nice.
And then that's made like a little sort of a patch that's then Velcroed onto. So there's actually 3 layers. There's the Velcro, there's the clear Lexan, and then there's the fabric with the like a sticky back fabric that's been laser cut with the WY and stuck on. And I just thought it was really cool. Like, I this is stuff that I'm not involved in at all. Yeah. But I know when, the thing is when I see something that is like somebody has put effort into that. Somebody has put work into it. Somebody has put thought into that. When I see stuff like that I go, will this ever really show up on camera? I'm not sure, but I know I'm like that. So anyway, I literally took that because I could see that there was work and appreciate the effort that had gone into that. So that's, oh God, I've forgotten his name as well. That was one of the camera grips. So this was literally an impromptu raft that they built with blue barrels. And then so that the camera could be moved around in the water. This was in like kind of a slight cave, not a cave, but like an inlet that we filmed in when
they were carrying Arthur on a
raft. When they're bringing when they've got Arthur on his little makeshift raft, and they come around the corner with the 2 kids with John and Ardash bringing out. So this was the bit where they're on the boat with Mr. Strawberry and Lily, pulling the jaw off. And this was actually a wide shot because she actually throws one of the security guys, Lily, who plays Nibs. She throws one of them off, and there was actually a whole rig, massive whole rig with a big cable and everything, so that the person could fly off into the water. And just wanted to kind of show that what you see, and then what's around. There's.
I was about to ask you, Lee. I know you live in beautiful Singapore, buddy. But even that location shot that you see in this picture, I mean, people like us here in the States, whatever, would die just to stand on that dock just to take a selfie. Do you ever imagine yourself in a location like that, even though you kind of do live in a location like that?
Yeah, I mean, well, you never. That's the thing, you never know. I mean, yeah, it's great. You get kind of, you get burnt really easy out there. That's the biggest problem. And there was we had a lot of big storms that came in. So we were actually quite lucky that we were in Krabi for 2 weeks. There was, storms, when the thing it's like Florida, it's not quite as like clockwork as Florida, because Florida, you kind of go, okay, it's 4:32, the rain should be here any second.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, that. That's correct.
But here it can you can get thunderstorms and big downpours almost any time actually, and when it comes in, it's heavy. So that's Kiri. He's the son of one of the producers, Chris. This was one of his first. He was basically kind of like the intern. He was sort of like the help, but he was wonderful help, and he was helping out with any department he could have help with. And that's obviously one of Wedder's. That was essentially the lighting stand-in for the Xeno head. And although, so that's Stunt Kirsch. With his background. This was over in a university. We filmed at a university for nearly a week, which is where a lot of the exteriors of the Neverland. Yeah. But not in the jungle. So when you kind of saw like there was gardens or there was pathways. Yeah. That was actually a university just outside of Bangkok, and these guys were there in the garden. And these are monitor lizards, right? Yeah, they're monitor lizards, and I mean we have them literally outside here. They're not uncommon in this area, but these two, but they move. That's Paddy again on the left, and that's he was taking a group photo with the on-set art department. So
why are you all in Hawaiian shirts? What's
that? I don't. That was something that I literally was walking by and I saw him taking the group photo of them, and I said, "Hey!" And I took why they were. It was one of the last days. Yeah, this was actually funny because this was outside Boy Cavalier's office. So Boy Cavalier's office was a really nice set, and it had this really nice wooden floor, like polished wooden. Oh floor. Yeah, beautiful, right? And so for the first, 3 or 4 days, we all had little booties that we all had to put on. And then I actually took 3 photos of this sign. One where it was up on the wall, so you saw it. Then it was down here, and then it was on the floor.
But look at the sheep. Look at the sheep at the top.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, so the sheep logo, the sheep with the eye, that was actually the production logo for everything. For it. All of the call sheets, all of the vans, all the vehicles, all the signage. That was actually on everything. Yeah.
But let me tell you something though, Lee. Your sign department isn't very consistent. Okay.
Yes. So that's so that's our quality. So we never really had like a designated area. We would just be kind of given you're here today. And there was many times where we were like, where are we today? And we're like, I don't know, somebody go look for the sign. And often that would be the sign just stuck up somewhere. Okay, you're here today. So that was us coming back from Krabi. So that's James, who's the VFX producer, and Jeff, who was the VFX supervisor, Jeff Okren. If you go back one, and Jeff is a legend in the VFX community. He's on the there we go. Jeff on the left there. Jeff Okren. The first film he worked on was The Last Starfighter.
Oh wow!
Where he was like a CGI.
Jeez, yes.
PA, like he was like yeah. So he's been around these projects
That's
for a long
awesome.
time. So
Lost
I
Stars,
knew
that's
him
a
before,
classic.
but this was the first time I'd worked with him. So
Cool.
yeah.
Wow.
Fun, goofy guy, lots of knowledge, obviously going back. And then, so if you want a little in joke, which most people already know about, Jeff was on Stargate. He was the VFX supervisor on Stargate. And that was Roland Emmerson and Dean Devlin. And then their next project after Stargate was a little film called Independence Day.
Oh, wow.
Which
Just
Jeff
a little one.
was meant to be on. I can't remember exactly the story about what it is, but in Independence Day, there's a character played by Brent Spiner.
Yes.
Yes, he was the scientist,
Scientist guy,
the mad scientist, who is Dr. Okran, which is Jeff's name.
Oh, really? Oh,
and
awesome.
and the way Brent and it's funny because they sort of deny it, but the way Jeff's mannerisms is very much Brent. If you look at Brent, he's got the long white hair and the glasses, and he's kind of got these sort of kind of. I've had a little bit too much coffee some days.
Kind of maniacal, yeah.
So Jeff is Dr. Okran. That's where Dr. Okran awesome. Came from in Independence Day. So that was the slate. So Ugla came from Iceland. So she did 2 episodes. She did episode 4 and episode 6. The episodes were shot in an interesting order. So the first 2 episodes to be shot were actually episode 2 and 3.
Oh, wow.
Which was done by Dana. So that was what we call block 1. Block 2 was episodes 1 and 5. And those were Noah directed those episodes. So that's why they were together. Then Ugla did episode 4 and 6. And then 7 and 8 were then done by Dana again. So that was how the episodes were, slightly out of order, but some of episode 1 was done at the beginning. But yeah. So anyway, that was Ugla. She was great. She came in, did her. This is so inside here is actually Charlie, who you can't see because he's obviously covered up.
This confused the hell out of me because every time they would cut back to this guy, I would think, well, what the hell is this guy doing?
Okay, so I don't want to give up too much on this because this is something that was part of the world building, and I don't know if they're going to expand on it if there's a season 2. I mean, I'm assuming that I'm pretty much assuming there's got to be a season 2. It was just too popular. So part of the world building. So in the story, in the scripts, in the costuming, in the props and stuff. So in this future world, and you'll notice it is mentioned a couple of times in the episode, but not really much. But it was more in the when stuff was being filmed. So mold and fungus and parasites and things are actually have become. It's the way I thought about it, and again, this is not coming from Noah. This is coming from me as a fan. Was a little bit of that whole War of the Worlds thing, where the aliens are defeated by bacteria, and like the smaller things are actually become a bigger problem than the bigger things.
I see.
Okay. So anyway, so in the sort of world building that went on in Earth was that things like mold and bacteria they're a problem in our world now. I mean, we've got bacteria that are resistant to antibiotics now. So and I was like, oh, this makes total sense. So part of the world building that they had was that this exists out there. There are in that world 100 years in the future or whatever, that smaller things are still a problem, and so on the Neverland they had these mold scrubbers. So you'll notice on the walls and stuff, you'll see that there's mold. So even though we're in this like amazing high-tech facility, mold is still a problem, and they're constantly having to clean it.
The suit totally gave off Blade Runner vibes to me again.
Yeah, I think or just costume designer or whatever. That
Well, I I don't think it's the mold they need to worry about. They need to worry about this.
Yeah. So this was actually, I posted a video of behind the scenes of this, where this came about. This was actually a shot that I think a lot of people missed it in episode 8, but it's actually a really brilliant shot. When Kirsch is in the secure lab, before Morrow comes in and beats the crap out of him, you'll watch that shot again, because in the background you'll see that there was these 2 guards outside the window. There's a window there's 2 guards, and then it kind of goes down onto Kirsch doing something, and then when we come back, the 2 guards are gone, and there's 2 blood splats on the window.
Oh,
yes.
And then you go back to Kirsch, and then the door opens and Morrow comes through. And so it's a very, very cool, subtle shot that I think a lot of people missed. So go back and watch episode 8 just before Morrow comes into the lab.
That's interesting. Okay.
So basically, they had the 2 guys were standing there, and then they had a radio. And I've posted on my last group of photos, there's a video of behind the scenes. So the 2 guys are standing there. Then obviously there was an AD who was watching the camera. So when the camera panned away, they were like, get out the way. So they jump out the way. There's 2 effects guys who blast blood onto the windows. And then the camera comes back onto, and you see the windows in the background, and they've now got blood spats. And then you come back, and then Morrow comes through the door.
Yep.
So that's where that is. And that, we actually had to do that like 3 times. They had to, again, that was a clean all that away. And
the funny thing about that scene is that my daughter quickly spoke up and said the line from Die Hard, well, we're going to need some more FBI guys.
Yeah. So, and this was literally like a gate on a pathway on the Prodigy facility. This was like a sign that was on the gateway, and there was also another shot of some instrument that controlled the gate. And again, it was like I took photos of both of those. More just because, again, I was like, this is some really nice work. I'm not talking about this. This is actually meant to be what's inside the kids.
Yeah.
I was talking about that site. Yeah. So again, there was like a pathway through the jungle, and there was a gate with like a gate controller or whatever. And it just, I love this kind of, there's a lot of work there and a lot of thought that went into the weathering and the aging.
Sure.
And like, this has been there for a while.
Very
and
cool.
So I took this photo just because it was one of those things where it's like, I appreciate work that props and things like that and construction do that might not actually make it on screen. So I just took this snap because who knows where that is now. Yeah. Might still be there in Krabby. So. We talked about that one. Yeah,
we talked about that one too, didn't we? Oh no, actually,
yes.
Those are Nick's hands, right?
Those, I forget whose hands. They might be Nick, the stunt guy's hands. So this is the bit when Alex is in the Boy Cavalier's office when the image is trying to get to him.
Oh, right.
So we knew that. So this was the shot. There's like a POV shot where you're just seeing him trying to fight it away, and it's trying to get at him. So what we did with that one was we put little black dots on his hands because we knew we'd have to track his hands because we knew that there would be a CG image trying to get at him coming at the camera. So this was done as like a lighting reference, and then we took that image away, and then he still had his hands with the little black dots were there so that we could track his hands and then put the CG image in behind. And that in the lower left there, that black bit, that's the camera.
Yeah,
there. That's the camera. That's the camera there in the lower left, or where the lens is. And so he was basically on the floor, kind of like doing this. So this is in the scanning booth. So all of the characters, all the costumes, all the creatures were scanned, were 3D scanned. And so this was when the Xeno 2 was being scanned. And this was the same day when I took the photo of Jade with her Nemo slippers on. So that was her getting ready. This was the listening room. This was a really cool room. And again, this kind of really the design work, the production design.
It's great. Really looks good.
It's got the whole pit with the colors, the browns had a very 70s, retro 70s kind of vibe to it.
Totally.
But it had this futuristic at the same time. So it was very, very cool. And the flooring, oh yeah, that's Craig changing the batteries on the animatronic sheet. So that's where the batteries are, if you wanted to know. Yeah, that's the listening room as well. So yeah, this room, it just kind of really summed it up. And the flooring was very interesting because it was a wooden flooring. That's Adrian Edmondson, as we all know, who was very interesting because obviously we know him as a comedian. He had I thought he had a great role in this, and it was nice to see him in a serious role. Yep. But what was funny, and again, this was literally last day of shooting when I thought, okay, I'll take a photo with him, and I got a picture with him as well. But it was funny because he's a very smart guy, very, very calm, very, well spoken, very educated. He's but when he wants to be comedian Aid Edmondson, when he wants to be goofy Aid Edmondson, there's a switch. He just, so when I wanted to take the photo, he suddenly was like, I'm in comedian Aid Edmondson mode. And that's why he kind of put that pose on. So this is Alex, obviously, and Nick. So Nick again. So Nick on the right, he was the primary stunt double for Alex, and was quite busy. Alex and Sydney had obviously quite a lot of stunt work.
Yeah.
So Nick did a lot. This is the VFX crew in Krabi. For the most part, there was a couple of people who had to stay behind in Bangkok, but this was the main part of the crew in a tent behind. So one of the interesting where we are is actually that pier, where the boat is actually just off to the left. And if you watch the episodes again with that pier, you'll notice at the end of the pier towards the land, there's a bunch of containers. It looks like just regular shipping containers. There's a whole bunch of them. And I took some photos. They've got some markings on them of like Prodigy waste disposal or something like that. But anyway, those containers are all completely fake. They're actually just flat-sided they're hollow behind. And that's because that's where all the crew and all the cameras and us and catering and costumes and everybody, we're all actually inside and behind those containers. So those containers were literally there to hide all the rest of the crew if we would have been seen.
All right, well, I'm going to end it there. It's so much to take in. It's so much for you to tell. My God, and it's a series, and 8 episodes. How long does it take to film one episode? 8 days. 9 days?
No, with the new, it used to be like when I was on Voyager, I think we had 8 to 10 days, maybe.
Yes.
I think 8 days.
Had
like a week and a half.
Yep.
Yeah. Modern shows, because again, the quality is higher, the budget is higher, the requirements are higher. It's about double that, so it's about 3 weeks.
3 weeks
average. Yeah.
So I figured. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, good God, Lee. Look, man, I hate to say it, but it's probably a good thing that we didn't have Calvin on with you.
Yeah, right.
Would have been
a 4-hour show.
It would have been a 4-hour show, right? It's like, good God, it's amazing. But
well, it was a 4-hour show. You had 2 hours with him, and you had 2 hours with me.
That's right. So. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is. I'm going to echo this sentiment right here that Jackie mentioned. That thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to season 2.
Me too.
And
whether I'm on it or not, I'm still looking forward to it. So
yeah, I haven't seen you in so long. I already have to come out to Thailand to visit another buddy who moved from Florida. He expat out to Thailand. So I got to go see him. So maybe I'll do some island hopping and come over and see you.
Why not? I mean,
while Joe and I go to New Zealand.
again. Well, actually, New Zealand is actually a long way from here.
Sure.
When you get to New Zealand, you're only halfway here. You're in same direction. You can go to New Zealand, and you're only halfway to then get to here. So
yeah. Because good God, man, that flight's gonna kill me. Because I know it's 30 hours. Because when we were bringing them to Germany, for God's sakes, that was 30 hours.
It's okay. So from where you are, just like you're in Florida, you are literally on the other side of the planet to me. We are 12 hours. That's why for me it's 10 a.m. here and it's 10 p.m. there. You
really?
are literally on the opposite side of the planet. It's about a 24-hour flight. I've done it many times because remember I was living in Florida when I first moved to Singapore. I was actually in Florida, so it's a 24-hour flight. You can actually do it. There are direct flights from Singapore to New York.
Okay, that's easy.
It's an 18-hour flight from New York to Singapore.
Well, I'm used to Germany. I'm used to 12-hour flights. But when we were bringing folks from New Zealand and Australia to Germany, we were going over the top of the Arctic Circle.
Yes,
actually.
they would have gone exactly. They would have gone the other way. Yeah,
over the top.
And that's what you do when you go to Singapore from New York. You literally go from New York and you head straight north, and you go over the Arctic and you drop down on the other side. Yeah, you are literally going straight over the top. That's the quickest way from New York. But no, going to New Zealand, you'd probably go to LA and then go down to New Zealand from there. Maybe Atlanta to New Zealand, it can go direct now. I'm not sure, but do seriously go to New Zealand. Go for 3 or 4 weeks. You need 3 or 4 weeks, and then when you want to come to Southeast Asia, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam, again, come for 3 or 4 weeks because once you get here, there's lots to that flight. Yeah, it's a long flight, but once you're here, there's a lot to see and do. So
and it's another day, of course. When that happens because you're a day ahead of us.
Yep.
Well, not a full 24 hours, but you're about
we're 12. Yeah.
You're 12.
Yeah. It was whenever anybody's like asking about oh, the rapture's happening tomorrow. I'll be like, no, it didn't happen. We're already in tomorrow. It didn't happen.
The future.
We're back already. We're back home now.
Yeah, if you're ever not sure about what's going to happen tomorrow, just give me a shout and I'll be like, no, sun still came out. Everything's okay.
Yeah,
the asteroid
we'll
didn't
call you in
land.
the future and say, what the hell?
So,
what are lotto numbers?
I wish I knew that one. That's the only.
Hey Joe and Mark, you guys have any parting words for Lee before we sign off?
Thanks so much for being here. We really enjoyed it and learned a lot, and it was very, very engaging and interesting. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, this was a blast. So good to meet you and hang out and just find out some of the insider info, which is some of the things I love the most. So
look, I enjoy behind the scenes better than I do in front of the camera, people.
Yes.
That, as long as we've known each other and various people we work with, the most interesting people are the guys that write and produce and execute. Acting. Oh, good for you. You act. Okay, whatever. But this was great, Lee. Appreciate it.
I'll send you anytime.
I'll send you a formal text later on, and you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah,
I will. Definitely. All right, thank you.
The rest of us are going to bed.
I'm just starting the day. So
all right, brother.
All righty, thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Take care.
Bye. Night.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.